I'm here with Neisha Berry. She is someone that I look up to a lot, and she's also someone that I call a very good friend. Neisha was there for me during my miscarriage back in November, and she was one of the only people I was in contact with. She was a total support system and honestly an angel in my life. And I really appreciate her, not just for that, but for your content. You are set apart from a lot of other women in the carnivore community or the ketovore community. I love that you embrace yourself and you're not afraid to be yourself. I think a lot of people try to blend in, and I don't see you doing that. And it's very inspiring to me. And I say that in all the best ways.
Thank you. I call you a close friend too. And I was happy that you called me and I could be there to support you. And you're right. I'm unapologetically myself when it comes to pretty much everything. But yeah, that's why I'm with Ken Berry. He also does the same. We're both just
Yes.
no BS, no nonsense, just matter of fact type people. And I think that's needed because there's so many perfect influencers, content creators out there that it can seem to the viewers and the subscribers that this perfection is what they should be going for, when
Yes.
that's not the truth. That's not reality. These are snippets of people's lives, videos that are put out to inspire, but I like to keep things real on my channel so people understand that even 6 years into this, there are days where I want something that is not Neisha approved. And, it's not just about perfection. It's not just about, all these grass-fed, grass-finished, organic, non-GMO, all these labels that we put on things. It's about the basics, common sense, eat real food, eat the quality you can afford, get good sleep, move your body. These are just fundamental things that everyone needs to do, even if you're someone who's still eating, plant-based, which a lot of people come from plant-based. And
Yeah.
so I feel like it just confuses people to hear so much content and so much information that they get so overwhelmed that they're just like, forget it. I'm just
Yeah.
gonna go back to the way that I was eating.
Yeah. I think it definitely deters people. I was super intimidated when I was entering carnivore. People said I had to do it a certain way, and they said if I used stevia, then it wasn't carnivore. But actually, what really helped me was using some stevia and dairy in the first 2 months, and that made it so much more sustainable for me. Everything else was carnivore.
Yeah.
And if I hadn't given myself permission to do that, I don't think I ever would have made it.
Yeah.
So you guys are great examples of that.
It's very, I try to differentiate carnivore as a lifestyle versus carnivore as maybe a reset or an elimination diet. And carnivore as a lifestyle can be adapted, I think. You can
Yes.
be meat-based carnivore and every now and then throw something else in there and still maintain that carnivore type lifestyle. Most of your nutrition is coming from animal protein and animal fat. But if you are doing, sorry, my phone. If you are doing carnivore as a reset or elimination diet, then those rules do need to come in because
Yeah.
you're doing that for a very specific reason. Maybe you have an autoimmune disease like me. I had to take dairy out at some point to get a
Yeah.
clearer understanding of how it was affecting my acne, my pain level, certain things like that. And until you push yourself to give up those type of things, you can't get a good understanding of, do you feel the best that you can feel, or can you feel even better? And
Yeah.
that's truly the power behind carnivore, is getting that clarity and that freedom from food. And yeah, cutting out the stevia, if you can't, I tell everybody, if you can't cut it out yet, cut it in half.
Yeah.
And wean yourself off of it if that's something that is going to pull the pendulum back so far that you binge and
Right.
up. And you have to know your personality type. You have to know if you're an addict or not. Those are things you have to take into account. Like, I could give up dairy slowly. Somebody else maybe needs to go cold turkey. Same with the sweeteners and stuff like that. So it's all very individualized, but at the end of the day, it's common sense. Eat fatty cuts of meat. If you
Yeah.
know a food inflames you or triggers cravings, stay away from it. But you have to do an elimination type carnivore to get that true understanding of your body, yourself. And I think also you just get more honest the more you take out. Like, was I leaning on this food as a crutch? Was I lying to myself? Oh, I can have that. It doesn't bother me. Like, you can lie to yourself till you take it out. And then you're like, wow, I feel better. My, pain is improved. I slept better last night. These kind of things really become clear the more restrictive you get. But I don't think that most people have to stay that restrictive forever. Like, very few people have 5 autoimmune diseases or need to have that restriction for a lifestyle. And I try to teach my clients, I'll call it in-game nutrition. Like, do you see yourself doing this for the rest of your life? If not, then why are you so worried about that part? Like, do I need to eat 3 sticks of butter? Do you think you're going to do that forever? Or is that a hack?
Yeah.
Like, be aware of hacks and, lose 5 pounds in 3 days, those type of things. If it sounds crazy, it's probably crazy. If it sounds too good to be true, it is probably too good to be true.
Yeah, well said. That's a really great point. I think there are a lot of hacks going on, and I can get down with them, like the sardine fast. I see the benefit. I think it's awesome for detachment, with your food and stuff like that. But I also see people dropping a ton of weight, and I'm like, this is not sustainable weight that's coming off. You're gonna start eating fat again, and it'll level out. But it's definitely something to think about.
Yeah, a lot of the egg fast, the sardine fast, it's hyped up in a way that makes me a little uncomfortable for those. Right. It's mostly women who are so attached to that scale that they are willing to do it for that reason instead of like, oh, maybe I need to just do an elimination. That's another type of elimination diet. That's all that is. You're not eating anything besides sardines, but for a lot of people, they're going to see that weight drop. And then when they go back to eating whatever they were eating, it's just like every other thing. You're probably going to gain a little bit of that weight back, or maybe you ate sardines for 3 days and now all you want is junk because you've been so restricted. Like, that comes back to what kind of personality do you have? Is this good for your mental health or just good for the scale?
Yeah. What type of personality do you have? Because I've seen you post, videos, and I love that you post these. I went off carnivore, emotional eating and stuff like that. So where would you identify yourself?
I don't have an addictive personality, so I've never really had a weird relationship with food when it comes to like overindulging or I can't have that, that's bad, and then like bouncing back and forth. And I didn't have a lot of weight issues until I had my thyroid issues. So it's more leaning on food in times of stress. Just wanting to get away in that moment and have a reward. I've been through a lot today. I deserve a treat, that sort of thing. But the longer I do this way of eating, the less those kind of opportunities come. So when I first started eating this way, I would have a cheat day probably every other week. And it would not just be some vegetables, right? It would be milkshake, or I'd go to Sonic, or I'd order a whole Domino's pizza. And my metabolism has always been high, so I literally could eat an entire.
I admire that so much.
I was the friend that could eat whatever she wanted and not gain a pound. So I still have a very good metabolism. So when I cheat, it's not like I'm gaining a ton of weight. So there's not that immediate repercussion that a lot of women do, like, oh, I gained weight, I got to go back. I have to be very conscious, because when I cheat, it's going to come in a more serious way than the scale. It's going to come in my mental clarity, lack of that, some brain fog, decreased energy, poor sleep, pain, things that are much more important to keep in check than like, oh, I flexed on the scale a few pounds. So even a cheat day for me could be a more significant spiral than someone who just has weight to lose, because I have an autoimmune disease, and those type of things aren't just putting weight on the scale. They're aggravating my immune system and causing real serious problems. So I can't cheat. Like, I can, but I will pay the price for sure. And so my personality is more along the lines of, like, I just can't get unhealthy. I have too many people depending on me. My kids need me. I can't just have a pleasurable experience for the crap of it. But there are, I know my body and how it reacts to certain foods too. So a cheat day can involve some things where, like, I can never have a milkshake ever again. I can't go to Sonic and indulge in some, like, whatever they call it, McFlurry at those McDonald's, like any of that stuff. That immediately I go into no energy. I could sleep for 10 hours, not good quality sleep. And I turn into a different person. Like, the dairy and the sugar combined is the perfect poison to just ruin everything and set me back like a month probably. Where I can maybe have a baked potato loaded with butter and bacon and cheese, and that's going to do nothing except for maybe bloat me a little bit. So, but I only know these things because I did eliminate them and I reintroduced them so I could get clarity on how they affect me and why I need to stay away from them, because that keeps me on the path more than anything. And I think a lot of people, if they could get past the scale into that point where this doesn't just make me gain weight, it makes all these other things happen. And that's why I don't want to eat them, even when maybe my emotions tell me that I should give in. It's just one. It's fine. Nobody's going to know. Like, So I just encourage people to do their own research on themselves, because influencers, content creators, YouTube doctors, they can provide a lot of information, but how do you know they're talking specifically to you in this specific video? Maybe they're not. Maybe this video wasn't meant for you. And how do you know that? Like, you have to break it down. How would this apply to me? How would I need to eat 3 sticks of butter? Do I have XYZ? And if you can't even think of a good reason, then it's probably not for you. But if you are convinced that there may be some secret in there, then do it N = 1 experiment, which is what I talk about all the time. Apply it to yourself and see how it goes, and be honest. And it has to be consistent. You can't do something for 7 days and say it didn't work, or do something for 7 days and have a strong opinion about it on the internet. Like, you have to really commit to some change. You have to commit to documenting what's going on and consistency. Like, if you, like, I hear all the time, I did carnivore and it didn't work. And I'm like, well, what did you eat? And how many days did you eat it? Well, I did it for 6 days. And it's like, you can't. No.
Right. It's very frustrating. I hear that. Even 2 weeks is not long enough.
No.
And I think it gets worse before it gets better for a lot of people. So I think they get intimidated by the diarrhea, the detox, the keto rash. And it's like, this means you're actually doing something. It's frustrating. So just speaking about yourself, thank you for sharing that. Can you give us a little bit of history on, you had Hashimoto's, or you have it, it's in remission. Who was Neisha before this person before us?
I thought I was bulletproof and I could just do whatever I wanted, go without sleep, eat whatever I wanted, stay up till 3 a.m., go in at 7 and do my job. I was, living my 20s life. We always think we know everything, and we never do, especially in our 20s. And so I don't know everything now too, but I'm more self-aware currently than I ever was in my 20s. I really took my health for granted. I took my youth for granted because I thought, these type of things don't happen now. I'll worry about that later. But for me, my symptoms started showing up at 26 and got really exacerbated, 27, 28. I mean, I kept getting sicker and I didn't know what was going on. And I thought it was just something that had happened, like I had no control over it. But if
Mm.
I had known then what I know now is I should have paid attention to my genetics and my epigenetics. Like, two women in my family have Hashimoto's.
Mm.
I was predisposed to that. If I had been armed like I am now to be proactive, maybe that gene would never have the switch wouldn't have been flipped. If I'd been
Right.
eating right and moving my body and, not staying up till 3 a.m., getting sleep, doing all the things that keep your body and your immune system healthy, I maybe could have just prevented all of this, but I didn't. And that's another reason why I try to share my story is I hope more and more young women who are a part of this plant-based fiasco and all these things in the environment that could affect your hormones and birth control and things like that, that they are becoming more educated and more aware of the power that they have to protect their bodies and protect their health the way that I wish I had. But I didn't. But that's what I feel like is part of my mission, is just to share my experience, because it just takes somebody saying it the way that you can hear it for you to open your eyes and be like, maybe what I've been told is not true. And
Yeah.
even in the beginning of my Hashimoto's journey, I was reading all these thyroid books and AIP, elimination diet, and the food sensitivities. And, you need all these supplements and you have to do all these fast and don't fast or fast like this, or, all these rules. None of that helped me. And I did the opposite of what was being said. I went keto, which at the time, if you had Hashimoto's, you could not do keto.
Right.
You need carbs. Your thyroid is, all of this. I won't get into that, but the general message then, and still really a lot now, is if you have Hashimoto's, you cannot do keto. You sure as crap cannot do carnivore. And if you do that, you will kill your thyroid, you will ruin your health. And if you were talking, like I was the main one talking about it at the time, and you're being awful, I can't believe you're telling other people to do this, which I never actually did that. I was just sharing my experience. But
Right.
it's been 6 years. My labs are great. My symptoms are good. The very last thing, and I've talked about this on YouTube, is I still have pain in my neck and my back. And I think a lot of that has to do with, I still have breast implants. I couldn't get them removed because I've been pregnant, breastfeeding.
Right.
So when I get done breastfeeding Bonnie, I'm going to have them removed and see if that helps with my pain. If not, I don't care. I want them out anyways. Like, I'm over this. And also I don't move. So I have like 2 problems that I need to overcome. I need to move more, move my body. I know it's important. I just really hate that. I hate exercising.
I love that you're so transparent about it. I remember you posted a video and I watched it. It was like before your cruise and you're like, I gotta get in shape for this. But I'm looking at you, I'm like, you look better than everyone out here. So it's kind of a blessing and a curse, because you look great. You look like you hit the gym regularly, but it's something you're feeling. So it's, you have to keep yourself accountable.
Exactly. And I think that's a lot of my problem. I have to reorientate my mindset on that. It's not to look good. It's to feel better. Just like when I cheat, I don't gain weight. It's another problem. So I have to really lock into if you want to feel better, you need to get off your butt and move. And like, I'm never going to be a CrossFit girl. That's not ever going to happen, but I can do more than I'm doing, right? I can lift some heavy weights 3 times a week. I can do that, but I'm very good at making excuses. And that's something that I think we can all agree happens to all of us for different reasons and different paths and different goals that we set for ourselves. It's 3 years later and you're like, I still am not good at that. What is wrong with me?
It's true. Yeah, we definitely all have those things. Movement is is medicine for me. I discovered it after, so my first engagement, he cheated on me in our apartment. And so I moved back in with my parents and I just picked up yoga. And I don't practice yoga anymore, but the movement was therapy for me. And so I started running and I just realized this is a huge outlet. Like it causes you to focus so much on one thing and it draws your attention from the pain or the emotional stuff that you're going through. So I think for you, just find your outlet. And, you guys have that beautiful property, so you could walk around outside and stuff like that, but I'm sure you'll figure it out. I gotta fix this. So kind of reverting over to the mama and baby side of things, I have heard that you had a good birth with Bonnie, like your dream birth, and then the one prior was not so good. Could you talk a bit about those?
Yes. So my first pregnancy was through IVF because I had infertility, and they said it was because of my thyroid being so inflamed and causing all those problems. So it wasn't easy to get pregnant. So I was already stressed out and injecting hormones into my body and going through a lot of, is this okay? Like, to put these hormones in my body, but I want to get pregnant and I don't know, it was already stressful. Then I got pregnant. When I was about 6-7 weeks pregnant, the clinic burned down. So
Wow.
I was literally stressed out the entire time because after the clinic burned down, then a lot of other stuff went down. And then when I was 9 months pregnant, our house was burned down.
Oh my goodness. I had no idea.
Yeah. And we were pretty sure somebody did the house. We were unsure about the clinic. They had said that it was because of lightning or something. So the second time something burned down, we were like, this is not an accident. Somebody has done this. Turns out somebody did do it. And we're going through the trial, but the house burned when I was 9 months pregnant and we had to go in for questioning. The TBI questioned me for 2 hours while I was contracting. Like, it was just stress. The whole time I was pregnant with my first baby, that should have been the best time of my life. I should have been the happiest I'd ever been. I was just constantly stressed out, like cried myself to sleep, had horrible thoughts. Like, you hear postpartum depression, prenatal depression is a thing too. And I was going through that, but I didn't know that I was going through that. And I didn't know anything. I just knew I was miserable and I was angry and all this stuff. And I think that had a lot to do with how my labor went, because your body, if it doesn't feel safe, it doesn't want to let go. I read a lot of Ina May Gaskin's books about birthing, and she talks a lot about feeling safe, and you just won't open if you are stressed out. And so my water broke on its own, which I thought, here we go. This is great. This is going to go well. But the minute I got to the birth center, the midwife that I got was not one that I had ever seen before. She was not, we just didn't jive, so I didn't bond with the midwife. She was wearing a ton of perfume and I was puking the whole time.
Oh my gosh.
I had throw up in my hair. It was a mess. So I was dehydrated. I was drinking, but then I would throw it back up. And they didn't start an IV until I was fixing to be transferred to the hospital. I pushed for 4 hours. When they transferred me to the hospital, he was crowning. I had to get into our car. Ken drove me and the midwife to Vanderbilt, which was only like a 7-minute drive. But let me tell you, longest 7 minutes of my life. Get out of the car, walk to the elevator, right up the elevator, walk to the room. And the minute, yes, girl,
that took me out really badly.
this is not normal. It was all I know it was all because I just had so much mental stress, physical stress. I was put through the ringer. That's not, like, do not get scared. That almost never happens. I've been a labor and delivery nurse for, I worked in labor and delivery. Never seen this happen in my life. Only me. Also, it's a nurse curse. Like, if you're a nurse in labor and delivery, your birth pretty much never goes the right way. That's just a rule. But I get there and I had already been pushing for 4 hours and I was like, you know what? I'll take an epidural. And that was not what I wanted. but I knew I couldn't go anymore. I'd been pushed to the breaking point. I couldn't push anymore. I've tried for another hour, and finally they had to do a forceps delivery, and I had a tear. It was pretty bad, and that caused me pain for 6 months after the birth. So it overall just was the worst, best thing that ever happened, because it really taught me a lot about my moms. If I ever went back to labor and delivery, like, I know what pain is. You know, I can always be, I was always sympathetic, but now I can truly be empathetic for the dream birth that you don't get, and going through all that. It's grief. It's a lot of grief. I know several moms that, you know, wanted a natural birth and didn't get it. And it's a grieving process. And it's something that I could be sympathetic for before, but now I truly understand what that means. And that's something that a mom goes through that maybe not everybody understands, that getting that dream birth may not happen. And that's something that you have to process and have good support behind the mom, because we weren't meant to go through things alone. We were meant to have moms and aunts and grandmas surrounding us, showering us with love and helping. Not meant to do motherhood on your own. Definitely not the first year of motherhood, first 6 weeks of motherhood. You really need that support system. So Bonnie was a huge surprise, because I thought I couldn't get pregnant. And obviously my body had healed a lot of things by the time Beckett had just turned 2. And I didn't get my period, and I kept waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. And I was like, okay, I'm going to take a test. And I recorded it, because I just knew if I record this, it's going to be negative, because had been so traumatized by the first birth that I was like, I can't do that again. So I almost was hoping it was going to be negative. So I recorded it and set the pee stick up there. And when the urine went past, it turned white, which I thought meant it was negative. And you can see this in the video. I posted it. I took a deep breath and released, because I thought, okay, it's fine. We're not pregnant. And then it turned bright pink, like immediately after that. And I was like, and it was such a surge of mixed emotions, like, oh my gosh, I got pregnant naturally. Oh my gosh, I'm going to have to do that all over again. What if that happens again? What if I have to go through all that? And so it was such a crazy time because it was a shock. You know, Beckett was more than planned for. And this baby just showed up out of it nowhere. I had no idea I could get pregnant, was not looking to get pregnant again. And I just had a hard time not being scared to death every single day about what this pregnancy was going to bring about.
Yeah.
Between Beckett and Bonnie, I had done some like stoicism work and tried to understand, because everybody says give it to God, but that's easier said than done. And I have a logical brain. So if you tell me in a logical way, that helps me understand. Yeah. It's not that you just need to give it to him. It's that it's not yours anyways. It's not yours. You can't do anything. You can't do anything about that situation. Let it go. Only take on what you have the power to take on. Can you choose what food goes in your body? Boom. Awesome. But you cannot choose what so-and-so does, or they, you just can't. And so I was much more able to deal with stress and the trauma during Bonnie. I also had better midwives. I had a better OBGYN. I had midwives that would talk to me about my fear and really like made me feel seen and heard. And I think that's so important, that you find a midwife and a provider that is not scared to ask you hard questions. The very first thing my midwife said was, you had a really hard labor. How are you feeling about this pregnancy? Like, that just took the weight off of me, because I was like, oh, it's okay that I'm worried. It's okay that I'm scared. It's okay that I'm torn about this. And after that conversation, everything went smoothly.
Wow.
And Bonnie came into the world all by herself. Well, you know, I did a little bit of work.
Yeah.
I labored at home till I was dilated to like 4. I had an appointment that day. I walked in, she checked me, and she was like, go to the hospital. You're going to have a baby today. And I laughed the entire time till the last hour. Right before I pushed, I started really having the intense contractions, but I got through them really well. And a lot of that had to do with I was so much more prepared because I wasn't distracted by things that had nothing to do with my pregnancy. Like I knew my breathing, I knew my coping mechanism, I knew how to get through those hard contractions because I knew they weren't going to last forever. Just get over that hump. Those things that I knew I could actually use, where before it was a mess. And I pushed 3 times and she came out, and I pulled her out on my own, and it was
Wow.
I mean, after I delivered her, I could have lifted a car. I think I was like, I felt so empowered and so strong and such a connection because I did it the way that it was intended. The hormones came in the way they were supposed to. I wasn't fearful. I wasn't stressed out. I was in the moment. Like the difference between bonding with Beckett and bonding with Bonnie are so incredibly different because I didn't get that with him, which breaks my heart, but I'm glad that I got a second chance to understand how it's supposed to feel. And it's both were beautiful. They both are special in their own way, but I know what my body can do now. And I know what women's body, like, it's just, you almost get to be part of, like, it's like initiation into womanhood, motherhood, to get that whole body experience and understand that arc of joy and pain and just exhilaration. And then you're just high off of this new little human that you're bonded to forever. And it's just the most beautiful thing. And I hope that you get to experience that. And I'm praying for you, girl, because you're going to be such a good mommy. And I mean, it's just the best thing. Motherhood is the best.
I'm tearing up. I'm so excited. Why? So I want to talk about the difference between home birth and hospital birth, because in my mind, I mean, my dream birth is let's do it at home. You know, I'll be in a pool and I won't use anything, but like, I don't know what I'm talking about. And Tyler won't even allow that. He's like, we don't know, you know, something could happen. We need to be at a hospital just in case. And so I have my logical brain and my dreaming brain, and I see pros and cons to both. So could you talk about those?
Yes. So I love home births. I think they're beautiful and amazing. For me, not knowing that I was near a hospital was going to put a strain on me and cause me to be stressed out. And I wanted everything that could be causing me anxiety and fear to just be gone. So I loved Vanderbilt. I had a good experience with their nursing staff there. Their team was amazing. And so I just was like, instead of going to the birth center, I'm going straight to the hospital. And I just reiterated every visit that what I wanted and that I knew things could happen. But and I had a doula, which if you don't have a doula, get a doula.
Okay.
She changed my whole experience because I knew someone was there that was not emotionally involved. Like Ken is great.
Right.
You know, he's the dad. If something happened to me, maybe he would forget what I said I wanted, or, you know, and maybe he needed some guidance to help support me because, you know, they're men. So having another woman in the room who knew how to specifically support the different stages of birth was empowering for me and for him. And she really changed the dynamic in the room and made it feel, even in a hospital, calm, relaxed. She put the fairy lights everywhere. She made sure the lights were dim. There was no bright light on me or the baby. It was all a very cozy, comforting atmosphere. And I was able to move So you have to make sure if you choose a hospital, what their standards are for monitoring the baby. And most hospitals, the ACOG standards allow for mom to move and do whatever she wants as long as she is not on a medication that could cause issues with the heart rate. So like Cytotec, Pitocin, epidural, obviously you can't go walk around, but I had no medication on board except for lactate or water, basically normal saline to keep me hydrated in case, and so I was able to move around and do different positions, bounce on the ball, get in the shower. There was a tub available if I wanted to get in the tub. All these things were still available to give me that feeling of doing it on my own with support and the resources in case something happened again, which usually does not happen in the second time. It's like, it just doesn't. But the midwives there were on board with my wishes and did not pressure me. Not one time was I asked, don't you want to do PIT to get things rolling? Don't you want to keep doing that? Do you want this intervention? Like, they just left me alone. Do you need anything? How are you feeling? They didn't check me unless I asked them to check me. So I was checked when I was admitted, which was fine. And then I was checked when they broke my water because I did have artificial rupture of membranes because I wanted it. I was like, let's get the ball rolling. And I knew what that would happen. And I was fine with it. That was the only intervention that I had. And I asked for it. And they gave me 30 minutes, which is how much time I wanted to take to make that decision, because she was like, here's what we can do. You do what you want and you let us know. And so I just labored for 30 minutes and I was like, yeah, let's do the rupture of membranes. It's important to know if that staff is going to be supportive. Is there a nurse that is happy to do natural birth and I want her? Is there a nurse who's not comfortable with natural labor? Understand what you're walking into so you're better prepared to deal, and you never know what you're going to get. I was very lucky. The staff was amazing. I had a student midwife. I had two. The first one I said couldn't touch me. And the second one I was like, you can, because I had a different feeling. Like I was like, confident. The other one was like kind of afraid of me. So, but that was her first natural birth. And like, she was like, thank you so much for letting me be a part of this. This was amazing. I've never seen anything like it, because I was like an animal, like wild. So it's just, the doula really helps bring that extra support into the room in case you're in the middle of a contraction and a nurse who may not be that good with natural birth is trying to talk to you. During your contraction. It's like, I don't have an epidural. You're going to have to wait a minute. And knowing the different tools like the peanut ball and bouncing on the yoga ball, the different positions, like your doula is going to help you move through the stages of birth and put you in the best position possible to bring that baby down and it to be as easy as possible. Not that it's ever easy, but it can be less stressful and you can feel like you're not alone, and you can feel like someone is holding your hand through the process, who's a woman who's been through birth, who has supported other women in birth. I would pay any amount of money for a doula. They are worth their weight in gold. And if you don't have one, girl.
I need to find one. Yeah. So when should I start looking? Like
now.
Okay. That sounds good.
You have time to build that relationship.
Right.
And interview several. Like I interviewed 5 different doulas and I picked the one that I connected with, and then I had a backup in case. I ended up with my backup, and that was fine because I knew both of them. They were on Zoom calls with me both at the same time, so they both got to know me. I got to know both of them, and they both understood what I wanted, what kind of support I wanted. I'm not a coddler. Like, I don't want to be coddled. Right. Don't stick with me. Just say, you got this.
Yeah.
remind me of my breathing, but don't say, okay, baby sugar, darling. Like, I can't do it.
That's me too. That drives me up the wall.
Yeah. Like, don't treat me like a baby, treat me like a strong woman and remind me how strong I am and those kind of things. But that's my personality, where somebody else would really love to be stroked and babied and like, so that's part of the process, is them getting to know you, your personality, and how they can support you in the best way possible. And so you'll probably end up with the number one pick and then a backup just in case she's in another birth while you're in labor. So
okay, that sounds so wise. Also, because you don't know what you're going to get at the hospital, right? Like,
yes.
You can like the hospital, but you never know. So if you have a doula, at least you have someone there who's on your side, who you're comfortable with.
That was the number one thing. I didn't know which midwife I would have. I didn't know what nurse I would have, but I knew my doula was going to be there, and I already knew her. I already trusted her, and we already had made this bond. Like, I barely talked to my nurse, and she was wonderful, but I didn't need her. I needed her to come in and do her job, and then she could go.
Yeah.
And the nurse didn't mind. She was fine with it too. She was like, cool, power through it, girl. You got this. But the doula, unless you have a midwife that you know for sure is going to attend your birth, the doula makes all the difference.
Yeah. Okay. I'll definitely start looking like tomorrow for sure. So thank you for sharing that. I definitely feel better about the hospital situation, because after the miscarriage, I just feel like, I don't want to be stuck at home. It's good to know that if something happened, and I am that type of person who wants to know, like, there are backup options.
Right.
That makes me feel comforted.
Mm-hmm.
Next question is based off of horror stories that I've read on social media. Obviously, Instagram knows I'm pregnant now, so I look at posts, I read the comments, and I see these women talking about, like, they gave me Pitocin and my uterus ruptured and my baby has permanent brain damage, or don't let them break your water, don't let them induce you, just let it happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what's true. So far, my opinion is that I'm okay getting an epidural if I need it.
Mm-hmm.
If I absolutely need it, I'm going to try not to, but I don't see a potential risk with that.
Mm-hmm.
And currently, I feel like Pitocin is like a risk. Is that like the total myth, or what is your stance?
No, it's not a myth. So birth can go many ways for many different women, and it depends on your body type, your pain tolerance, and how prepared you are going into birth. Most women are not that prepared because the culture does not prepare you. It prepares you to get the nursery ready and buy all the knickknacks and the paddywhacks and, all that stuff, but it doesn't prepare women for birth. So natural birth, always going to be the best way. Will problems happen? Sometimes. Are they rare? Yes. Mm-hmm. How do you best prepare? Take a birth class.
Yeah. Okay.
In person is fine, but I'm going to tell you the one that helped me the most. She is a YouTuber. She is amazing. And let me look up her channel. And I did, even though I was a labor and delivery nurse and I'd already had a baby, I still took this class. And I took a birth class the first time too. I didn't like it. So she does, she is a doula. Her name is Bridget Tyler. Okay. And she's on YouTube, and she has free videos on YouTube. So if you're a mom who doesn't have the budget to buy her program, there's tons of videos online for free. But if you can get your mom or your grandma to buy that birth class that she offers, it's all online. It's that you just get on your computer and watch the videos, just like any course that are online now. And she gives such detailed advice for coping mechanisms. And that right there, being prepared and feeling confident in your body is the first step. So I highly recommend that. Now, when it comes to interventions, it is just the stats that once you start doing interventions, more interventions happen. That's the facts. Some hospitals that have labor and delivery units are better than others. Some doctors want to get out the door by 6 p.m.
Right.
But more and more midwives are coming on the scene. And if you get a good one, there are bad and good everything, right? But if you get a good one, they should support natural birth and understand that that does not have a timeline. It could be 3 hours, it could be 13 hours, it could be 24 hours, depending on mommy and baby and all the other factors that come into it. The highest risks come in as time progresses, right? If you do an induction, whether that's CDiff, which is a pill, Cervidil, which is inserted into the vagina, or Pitocin, you're already pushing fast forward on something that should not be going fast forward. Some practitioners use Pitocin responsibly, meaning they may only give you 2 units, which is the lowest dose, and that's where it stays, just to kind of bump. The risks are lower, the lower the pit, and however stable the baby is to begin with. And then everything kind of spirals after that. So once you're on pit, you're kind of on a timeline. It's more stressful for you because pain during labor is painful, but Pitocin increases the pain,
right?
Which increases your risk or increases the likelihood that you may get an epidural, not because you're weak, but because the contractions that you are feeling are abnormally stronger. They last a little longer, they peak a little higher. And so that's the next intervention, epidural. The risks of low blood pressure happening for you and for baby, that's one of the higher risk reactions. You get an epidural, it's going to drop your blood pressure, may drop it too low, may drop baby's heart rate low. You may get nauseous. Then they give you something for the vomiting. And it just kind of keeps going. So it's not that pit is bad. It's not that being induced is bad. There are times and places where these things are important. Epidural saved my life. I could not have lived through having a baby forcefully taken out of me. That would have wrecked me, right? It was a tool I needed at that moment. And I thank God that it was around. But there are risks with every single intervention that may happen on that timeline. So if you can go into labor on your own, fantastic. If you can push through the pain on your own, fantastic. Things go better the less we try to mess with them. That's just the way that it is. But if there needs to be interventions done, those type of things are very rare, unless you have already basically set the clock, like started the clock abnormally, being induced either way with the pill or with the drip. That puts you at a higher risk for everything else happening, including C-section. And then there's risk with C-sections too. But there's, you cannot know how it's going to go. You can just do the best that you can to prepare, and taking the birth class, getting on the ball like you're on there, bouncing, getting on your hands and knees, scrub the floor, do those kind of things. That helps move those hips, open your hips, get baby's head positioned, those type of things. That's what we were doing already. Like ancestrally, we did sit upright, and we walked more, we got down on our hands and knees more, we stretched more, we were just more mobile, and it helped get baby into position. Your doula is going to be able to put you in some positions while you're laboring as well, to open those hips and move you around. She's not going to let you lay in one position for a long time. Those type of things. You won't move if you're not told, because you're going to be in your head and you're going to be going through the contractions. But if you have your doula, she's like, okay, we've been in this position for long enough. Let's move slowly into another position. And that right there, that's how we're meant to labor. We're not meant to lay on our backs in a bed while our body's doing all this work. So it's you just have to really advocate for yourself, understand the risks and benefits of everything, and there's risks to natural birth as well. Which is why you feel like a hospital is a better setting for you.
Yeah.
This is something we are built to do. Sometimes hiccups happen. But if baby's heart rate is good, you're feeling good, and the strip looks good, and you can ask like, how's heart variability? Does the baby look okay? You know, all these things. And they'll let you know, like the baby's having decels or things like that. A good midwife will communicate what things mean. If you want to know, always ask, what does that mean? Or if she says something you don't understand, what does that mean? And always ask what the risks are. They have to tell you that stuff. Have your doula also say, do you need her to explain that more to you? You know, she can be there also reminding you. You can ask whatever questions, and you don't have to make decisions right there on the spot. You can ask them to leave while you talk about it with Tyler and your doula.
Yeah.
You advocate for yourself and for your baby, and trust that the staff will let you do that. And you always have the right to say, if a doctor is not treating you well, you say, I want a different doctor. I want a different midwife. Advocate for yourself. And keep that. That's another reason the doula is there, because in the moment you may be scared. You may hear something said in a way that sounds scary, but maybe when it's explained, it's not really scary. Like,
Yeah.
those type of situations depend on who is telling you the information and how willing they are to try and keep you on your birth plan. And I say plan loosely because we can only plan for, that's another, we got to, you know, he has the plan, right? So just letting them know, here's what I want, here's what I don't want, here's what I am open to if something happens. Having that printed out and available, give it to your doula, put it in your bag, and just be as prepared as you can be for the situations, because you don't know what's going to happen, and all you can do is be prepared mentally.
Yeah.
All right. And know what you don't have control over.
Yeah, that was a ton of good advice. I think asking questions is a huge one, because I can envision myself hearing something and panicking because I don't know what they're talking about.
Right.
So just being comfortable to ask questions. I really, really think the doula is going to be key, and I didn't realize that before. So I'm glad you've convinced me. What about vaccines?
So there are some vaccines that are they're like on that mission sheet. So when baby gets born, they have their own chart. So you'll have a chart and baby will have a chart. And once baby's born, or when you get admitted, depending on what hospital policy is, they'll show you these boxes. And so there's one for the vitamin K shot, one for the erythromycin eye ointment, and one for a Hep B vaccine. The vitamin K, you can ask your midwife to order you one without mercury. That's the main concern for a lot of moms, is it has some mercury in it, which a lot of vaccines do. You can ask for that one, and you can do your research. It has to come to the hospital in the package with the label and the VIN number, or not the VIN number. There's numbers that they have to put into the system to document specific type of medication was given. Here's the expiration date. Like, all that information has to be intact. That's the main thing. Some hospitals are open to that, some aren't. You are there you can decline anything. If you're going to decline something, personally, for me, the Hep B did not make any sense to give to a less than 24-hour-old baby. Most of these vaccines or medications are given in the first hour. So I delayed cord clamping. First of all, a good midwife will do that without even asking, because it's the best thing for baby, unless there's an emergency. And then we delayed all the medications, the vitamin K and the erythromycin, until I had been with the baby for over an hour. We had had a successful latch, successful nursing session. And then they were allowed to take the baby, measure, weigh, document, and do all the things that they would normally do. They were totally fine with that. She had nothing going on. It was a perfect birth. Sometimes babies come out short of breath maybe their APGAR score isn't good, maybe something happens, of course, then we would have obviously handed the baby over. Beckett did not come straight to me. He went straight to, like, he came to me for a few seconds and then they took him because he had had a very traumatic birth. Bonnie could stay with me and that was fine. The vitamin K and erythromycin, I didn't have a problem with that. I know there's a lot of information on the internet. I'm open to people educating themselves, but also I was just like, I didn't see a problem for me for that, but I was not going to do the Hep B vaccine.
Okay.
And still haven't. Like, that's just off the table, not doing that one. Dr. Sears has a program where he talks about spacing out vaccines and delaying live vaccines. And so if you haven't looked into that, look into the Dr. Sears method. And we kind of follow those guidelines when it comes to those type of things.
Awesome. Excellent. Okay. Can you talk a little about postpartum, and did you go through depression? And I mean, I'm sure it's just a huge change. It's brand new, and your body is different than it's ever been. What's that like? And do you have any tips?
Yes. So postpartum, I don't think I had postpartum depression. I think I was already depressed and it just continued on. Like, I didn't have the severe problems like some moms go through with the feeling of harming the baby and those like type of things that obviously need to be addressed by the doctor and can happen to moms. I think if we did a study on this, the research would show that these moms that struggle with that type of thing did not have support before, during, or after. And they were left to their own devices, which during these, like, your hormones are all over the place after you have the baby. And you've just, like, as a first-time mom, even a second-time mom, you're just sent home with this kid and you're like, oh my gosh, I have to keep you alive. And I just did all this stuff and my body and everything's crazy. So no matter what kind of birth you have, having a support system after baby comes home is the most important thing to help you not feel overwhelmed, to get a break, because that's okay. You need a break. That baby is going to be like a little tick attached to your body for 3 years. Have that support, have people cook for you, help take care of you. We are like the only culture who people come visit the baby and then leave.
Right.
Like, that doesn't happen in so many other cultures. That moms and grandmas move in, take care of the mom, help with the baby. And that's just how it is, because that's how a mom should have that support. It's meant to be that way. It takes a village. That village, that's not an analogy. No, it really does. It takes a village of moms and grandmas and aunties, cousins, whoever can be your best friend. If you don't have a good supportive family, or you can even, at this point, you can hire postpartum doulas who come and do that stuff for you, cook for you, help with the baby. Like, you can hire people to do this. If you don't have that support, which I know not everybody can afford that, but hopefully everybody can find a friend that can at least come give them an hour to take a shower and take a break and bring food, like DoorDash. Thank God for that, right? Now you can even have your food delivered. That, more than anything, that support, emotional, physical, all of that stuff, that's the most important thing. If you're wanting to breastfeed, getting that consultation in before you have the baby, which we've already talked about that, I think. Helps you feel prepared, just like you need to be prepared for birth. You need to be prepared for what's coming with the lactation. And is this right? What could happen? Like, moms who wait till after baby's born are set up to have problems because they're waiting till after things are already going on to try to go in reverse and fix them. It's much better to initiate that first consultation, understand things that may ask questions. Like, I read this online, like you just said, is that true? Is that something I need to worry about? And having someone who is knowledgeable encourage you and support you and educate you in the things that are true and calm your nerves about things that have been blown out of proportion, which happens a lot.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. I feel pretty set. We are under contract with a home now, not Tennessee, but North Carolina, about an hour from my family. So my mom, I'm sure, will be glued to me like a
Right.
tick. She loves babies. So I'm
Gosh,
excited.
that's great.
Yeah, that'll be good. What are your thoughts on low carb breastfeeding? Because I know that it takes a lot of energy to breastfeed. Do you have any concerns about women, their thyroid tanking? Did you have any issues?
No, the main issue moms will run into is lack of support and people feeding them the information that is on Google, about how you need these lactation cookies and you need these and you need that.
Right.
You need to eat, do not fast for sure. Eat good, real food. If you want to do low carb and not, meat based, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with
Yeah.
that. Make sure to get plenty of salt in your diet and, of course, drink. But most women who are breastfeeding and successful, they're thirsty all the time. It's not a problem for them to drink enough water. Their body is constantly saying, drink water. But make sure you're getting that salt too, because a lot of women may not be getting enough salt, and that really helps with the milk supply. The number one thing that helps with milk supply is a good latch and removing the milk. It's a supply and demand system. The more baby feeds, the more milk you make. The more you pump out, the more your body thinks the baby's eating, it makes more.
Got it.
So that's the secret. That's the only way to increase your milk supply is to pump an extra session. But you got to be careful. If you're pumping and breastfeeding, you may overproduce, and that can cause problems too. So best practice is to let baby feed first and then maybe have the haka on the other one. Well, do you have a haka?
I don't know what that is.
Okay. So a haka is it's just like a silicone pump, but it doesn't have a machine or anything attached to it. It works by suction. So you just squeeze it, you place it on your boob, and then when you let it go, it's suctioned to your boob, just like a suction cup. And it pulls out the milk naturally.
Okay.
It's less aggressive on you and your nipple. And it's less likely to make you an overproducer, which can cause mastitis and things that are very uncomfortable. And then switch, let baby feed, and all that. So that's it. Don't pump too much. Like, it's just feed exclusively on the boob, and really the haka should just catch the excess, right? Baby should be taking most of the milk, and don't overcomplicate it. Let unless the baby sleeps for 6 hours, which very rarely happens. Okay, in those first 6
not counting on it.
Right. The first 6 weeks are where you're going to set the tone for your milk supply. So if you just let your baby lead you, and if you get uncomfortable and the baby's asleep, then, pump for like a few minutes, but don't do a full pumping session, because the minute you do that, then baby's awake. And if you give a bottle, it's almost impossible to get the baby back on the boob. So make sure you're doing, if you're wanting to exclusively breastfeed, that you introduce the bottle, and like I would say once a week is okay. But if they're getting a bottle a day, they get really attached to that fast flow because they can not have to work as hard, and then they don't want to latch. So I would say by week 3, if you want to break, you can do pump a bottle and give them one time a week. If your mom wants to feed the baby, just those type of things to make sure that when you do need to give the baby a bottle, they will take one, because it can go the other way too, and they won't take a bottle. They only boob. So there's a lot of tricks, and that's why you need a really good lactation consult to teach you these things. And hopefully they have like a book they can give you too that is very helpful. If you haven't read Ida May's Guide to Breastfeeding, that's my favorite one. It's everything you could possibly need. It's on Audible, and someone told me it's free.
Oh, awesome.
Right. So that's amazing. But she's like the mother midwife of all midwives. And she has amazing books about childbirth as well. So if you want to download anything by Anna May, is going to be helpful and informative for anyone, someone who's pregnant or someone who's a nurse or someone who's a midwife. It's all good for everything. And she has helped so many moms. Like, gosh, there's probably 100,000 women that she's helped like be there for them. And then she wrote all these books to help everyone who can't be with her, because they are just common sense birthing stories of other moms, and also tips and tricks for the expecting mom. Just highly recommend everything by Anna May. If you are pregnant or fixing to get pregnant or know someone who is pregnant, gift them all of her books. And also Expecting Better. If you haven't read that one, get that one too. It really dives into, it's no, it's by, oh gosh, I don't have it over here, but I can't remember her name. Okay. She's a data junkie. And so she took all of these studies of all of these things that pregnant women hear, like you shouldn't eat, runny eggs, or you shouldn't eat raw meat, and you should stay away from deli meat, and all these things that we hear. And she breaks down the statistics that these are based on and the actual risk factors. And she just gives you the data. Like, she's not influencing your decision. She's saying, here's what the data says. Actually, your risk is very small for this or whatever, or this may actually be significant. And she really breaks down what these risk factors, what the risk is. Is it that big of a deal, or are we being scared over something that is nothing? So yeah, that's a great book as well.
Yeah, that sounds like something I would love. I've gotten so sick of people, you shouldn't be eating raw dairy. I'm eating raw dairy. I even got deli meat, but I'm heating it up on the cast iron before I eat it. I'm eating, smoked salmon. I'm like, I just need to stop telling people, because people are sending me things and it doesn't make sense.
Read that book. It's going to ease your mind. Eat the deli meat, use your nose. If it smells good, it's probably fine.
Yeah, makes sense. What were baby's first foods?
So scrambled eggs for both Bonnie and Beckett. And then they had some avocado. And then they were given strips of steak, like long, skinny strips that they could hold. And then they would just gnaw them.
Right.
And chew on them, suck the juice out of them. Sausage, liver pate, liver mousse, hamburgers, hamburger meat. And then kind of past 8 months, they were eating everything. But that was from 4 months to 7 months. Those were the main things that they would eat. And we gave them rib bones that we put in the freezer to cut their teeth on.
Nice.
Biltong, deer jerky that's not spicy, obviously. Bonnie loved to chew on that when she was teething. There really is, very few foods that they can't have once they can sit up and put things in their mouth. Obviously, you're not going to give them little, grapes or things that are choking hazards. There's specific ways you cut the food up so that they are safe. The book Baby-Led Weaning, I like what it talks about in the way of how to cut the food up and how to give it to them. I don't really listen to the nutrition. They're very, plant-based. And salt is the devil. And my kids eat salt, and they have since they were little. They literally seek it out. They will grab the salt container and lick it. Like
That's awesome.
We have to keep a special salt container for when we have company, because the other one's got baby drool all over it. But it's very, very good to help you feel confident that babies were meant to eat real food. You don't have to smush it up. It doesn't have to come from a package. And a lot of times when Bonnie was still figuring out how to chew, I would chew the meat up for her and hand it to her. If we were out and I was having steak and she wanted some steak, and I couldn't just sit there, and I would just take a bite, chew it, take it out, hand it to her, and she would eat it, to the point where now she thinks that's how you're supposed to feed people.
Oh,
She will put it in her mouth and then take it out and hand it to me like she's feeding me. Look, mommy, I chewed it up for you. It is. At first, I was like, why is she doing that? And I was like, because that's how I fed her for the first few months of her life.
wow.
I never thought that she would not understand that only I had to do that. She didn't have to do that.
Right.
Yeah, it was really funny that she started doing that. And now she eats everything. She eats pork rinds. She loves pork rinds just to crunch on them and gnaw them up. And cheeseburger, sausage, bacon, eggs, blueberries, raspberries, strawberries. She doesn't love avocado that much, which is fine because, you know, they're almost a waste of money because they are good and then they're not, you know, they just fall off the
Yeah.
But that's basically, it's very simple, real whole food, a little dairy here and there. Raw dairy, if you can get it, that's obviously great. They drink goat milk when they're not with me. So goat milk is really easily digested by infants and babies because it's got the A2 qualities to it and doesn't have that dairy, like cow dairy stuff is hard on the tummy. Goat milk is great alternative if you do need to supplement. Look into that. That's what we wean to. We go from goat milk. I take breast milk and I cut it with a little goat milk and kind of yeast.
Oh, wow.
So it's not like, because goat milk does not taste like breast milk, but if you start mixing it, then it eases them into being okay with the goat milk. Yep.
Wow. That was actually a question from someone, is your thoughts on goat milk and using that? Because I don't think there are any clean like baby formulas that you can get.
Not really. No.
Yeah.
If you can get some, I think Dr. Sivas has some, but it's like from Europe and it's probably $100 to even get it to America. Right. Like, you know, it's goat milk is the best alternative. You're going to see a lot of crap about it on the internet because when the formula shortage happened, lactation consultants were saying, oh, goat milk is a great alternative to formula if you can't find your formula. And they put the smack down on people saying that because they didn't want moms to know that. That's my theory anyways, because before that, it was totally fine. Goat milk was the alternative. That's what we all knew. And the minute that happened, then we started getting told, no, you can't say that. No, you shouldn't say that. And I was like, well, I'm going to say it because it's true.
Yeah. Wow. This has been so amazing. I feel already so much more prepared. I have books to look up to buy. I need to find a doula. I'm feeling a lot better. What do you offer in terms of all of this? I know you offer coaching. Just talk about everything that you offer. You do a whole lot. You have YouTube.
Yeah, I do everything, it seems like. So my YouTube channel, you can find some content on there about breastfeeding. I don't have that much on there because it's almost too much to put in a video and it's specific to each mom, right?
Right.
So I feel like it's unfair to do a generalized video without making 100 videos that really go into detail. So, but in the private community, which is drberry.com/community, you can get in there and ask me any questions when I do my live stream Q&As. I'm always happy to answer any questions in there. And most moms only need a few things answered. I also have a downloadable PDF in the group that is all about breastfeeding and the basics. I think I sent that to you, Rebekah.
I haven't received it.
I will send it.
That would be awesome. Thank you.
And it really breaks down the basics of understanding like latch and what's a good latch versus not a good latch. And I still think everyone needs an in-person lactation consultant because you just feel so good and prepared when you have that as a tool and somebody already on your team in case something happens. But yeah, I'm more than happy to answer any questions in the group. And then if someone really does need more help, which most women just need support, they need the confidence that there's someone there, then I offer online consultations. But like I said, most moms just need me to reiterate what they already know, that it's I always say breastfeeding is hard until it's easy. And most of that comes from lack of support and lack of confidence because no one was there to help them understand where breastfeeding was going to take them, because it's a process. It's a learning process for mom and baby. Baby comes out knowing they need to eat, but they don't always know how to get on there, and the mom gets emotional, and it can cascade into something that is a problem, when if there was just someone there to support the mom, it wouldn't have ended up being that problem.
Yeah. Well said. That sounds really good. Do you have any last words for moms to be, or me?
Just trust your body, trust your husband, and remember that you were built to do this. You were built to birth. And if something happens, you have people there who are going to help you. And at the end of this, it's all going to be worth it, because you're going to get that sweet little baby to snuggle and squish those little cheeks. And you're fixing to be born again, girl, because the day a baby is born, a mom is born too. And I always say that I celebrate my children's birthdays because I was born on that day too.
Yeah.
A whole new me came into the world the day my children came into the world. So celebrate yourself. Don't just celebrate the baby. Let people take care of you too. And give yourself grace, because you're going to be so emotional afterwards. You'll cry for no reason whatsoever. You'll be like,
I already am.
what's happening? Like, that doesn't stop. That's going to keep it up for probably 6 weeks after you have the baby. So let yourself cry. Don't feel bad about it. If you get emotional, make sure Tyler goes to these things with you, and he's prepared for that too, because this is his first time too. So don't forget about him, and that he needs to be prepared to understand how to support you before, during, and after. And the doula can help with that too.
Awesome. Thank you so, so much, Neisha. You're amazing. Thank you.
Happy to do it anytime.
Cool. Thank you so much. Hi, you guys. So my fall retreat is more than halfway booked. I know that you guys may have already heard of it. We're going to have a dream team of special guests. We have Ken Berry, Maria Emmerich, Kelly Hogan, Neisha Berry, and Lisa Wiedemann. So we're all going to be together. This is going to be invaluable fellowship, breakthroughs, learning, eating the highest quality, best, most delicious meats like Billy Doe meats, North Star bison. I'm going to be making my carnivore treats, carnivore brownies, carnivore carrot cake, carnivore ice cream. And then of course we'll have Maria with us, so she's going to do some cooking with us. It's going to be so awesome. For those of you who don't do sweeteners, we will be with Emily Harveau and Kelly Hogan as well. They don't do sweeteners. Lisa doesn't do sweeteners. So we're going to have options for everyone. It's just going to be absolutely incredible. So we're in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, October 11th through 16th. This is when the fall colors are peaking. The weather is phenomenal. If you're interested, please email me directly at rebekah@tailoredketo.health. I'll send you the information. I'll send you an invoice when you're ready to pay. The only way to reserve your spot is with payment, and then you'll be locked in. I hope to see you there.